Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit of the WoW podcast, Blue Please on CynicalBrit.com. Welcome to Deepholme, finally. Yes, or as I'm calling it, Heapdome. The new sporting event, courtesy of these dudes. This is the Temple of the Earth, which is a temple, which sort of worships the Earth. Don't know what else you expected. The first thing we're going to have a look at is Therazan's throne. You should be aware of Therazan, I would think. Therazan is the Stone Mother. She's one of those big elemental lords, alongside Ragnaros. Therazan doesn't really care so much for the whole fighting thing. She's not out to destroy the world. She's actually kind of nice, if a little bit hideous. I'll show you the throne in just a moment. In the meantime, I'll go and have a little wander through here. The problem we currently have with Deepholme, actually, there's a lot of problems with Deepholme right now. Loads of problems with it. But one of them is the fact that there is no map. So, navigating this area is a complete nightmare, because we have no points of reference or anything like that. So, this video may be a little sparse on the content, but you will see an awful lot of cool stuff. What you can use is the quest to actually get a little bit of an idea of navigation. So, I'm going to pick up a couple of quests from these reliquary guys at some point in the not-too-distant future, i.e. now. There's one here that takes us over to one of the Twilight areas. So that should be a nice thing to have a look at. And this will actually unveil a question I've had knocking around my mind for a while. It explains one of the things that I saw in Oldham. Yes, indeed, and it's not what you think. Well, maybe it is. Now, the Temple of the Earth is based around something called the World Pillar. And the World Pillar is supposed to keep Azeroth from collapsing in on itself. Balances out the magnetic forces and the elemental stuff. Turns out that when Deathwing sort of burst through here, he kind of broke it. And a lot of the stuff you're going to be doing here is going to be involving fixing the World Pillar to make sure that Azeroth doesn't implode. That would kind of suck. Overall. Okay, let's go and say hello to Therazan, the Stone Mother, and her cohorts. And that's the loading screen, one of the most impressive I've seen. Hello. Ugh. You've seen someone similar to that before, if you recall correctly. You shall remember that as the end boss of Moradin. Similar model. What you've also got here is a very odd-looking Earth Elemental. That's a new model for it. I'm sure I've never seen anything like that before. And then you've got these guys that you saw in Wrath, the big stone giants. They've all got very impressive titles. They're big on the first impressions. And to be honest, they are fairly large, and I probably wouldn't screw with them. Now, this area is designed as a hub for a lot of daily questing and rep stuff, kind of like the Sons of Hodir, but it's with Therazane this time, and she doesn't like you at all, I might add. Right now, there's nothing we can get from her. A lot of stuff to get done here eventually, and this is supposed to be this daily questing hub, so I imagine a lot of it's going to involve being level 85. Yeah, let's not look at her for too much longer. Yeah, she's annoyed. She's not happy. If you like the lore, I would recommend having a read of that little piece of text that I just put up there. If you missed it, rewind and pause. Now, this area is striking in terms of appearance, as you can tell. Fantastic glowing effects. A lot of crystals. This reminds me of, in my youth, yes, such a long time ago, I used to go to a rock and gem museum when we were up in Scotland, and I always used to love the sort of gem cave where they got all the glowing stuff and the stalactites and the cool rocks with the gems inside. They were very neat indeed. This area reminds me of that. Yeah, I know it's a bit childish, but I like shiny rocks. What can I say? It's just a thing of mine. This area is also quite odd in the way that a lot of the rocks are just sort of floating around. Will remind you a little bit of Nagrand in that respect. As to why they're floating around, couldn't tell you. Something about the electromagnetic forces of Azeroth or some nonsense. There are also a number of different kinds of drake here. Now, if you'll notice on MMO Champion recently, you were able to get a similar looking drake. Lots of these stone drakes available. And someone there doing a quest which apparently involves floating on rocks. That seems interesting. We'll have to check that out at some point. Like I say, videos of stuff like questing in Vashir and Mount Hyjal and Deepholme, yeah, that's going to take a long time. This character was power leveled, so I just blitzed through everything, not paying any attention to it. I just ground for, I just went and AoE'd mobs for certain times, did some dungeons, things like that, got some gear. Wasn't paying any attention to any of the lore or anything. So I will eventually put a character through properly so that you can see all of this questing stuff. Whether or not that'll be in beta or in the actual live, I really don't know. It depends on the time that the beta continues to run, when the release date is, and if I run out of other things to do in the meantime. Now, there are a few mushrooms around here, and this is an interesting battlefield, as it turns out. We've got some very Stylen war constructs. The Earthen are present here, by the way. There's quite a few of them. And they are fighting a bunch of Twilight guys, as well as some nasty-looking gnolls and kobolds. The Boglords are here as well. I don't know why, but are those guys not the coolest-looking constructs you've ever seen? I mean, look, giant handlebar mustaches. They're like, yeah, we're going to kick your ass. We got arms like tree trunks and then some. Big fan of that. Always like that kind of architecture. It does remind me, in a very genuine manner, of the old Warhammer Fantasy dwarves. Very similar kind of architecture and aesthetic to those guys. I'd love to tell you a lot about these areas, but there's just so little information. And what I can tell you is what Deepholme actually is. So, Deepholme's this realm below Azeroth, and it's ruled over by Therazane. This is one of the actual elemental planes, if you hadn't realized, which is why you've got so much elemental stuff going on. Now, as regards to what happened here, well, Deathwing ended up being nursed back to health here. If you read Day of the Dragon by Richard A. Knack, you'll know an awful lot more about that. I personally didn't. So, what happens is, he gets all better, and he's like, okay, cool, I'm ready for destruction again. And he smashes through Deepholme, and he causes the World Pillar and the Temple of Earth to take a lot of damage, so he breaks the World Pillar, and then bursts forth. Now, I'll tell you a bit more after we've looked at this. What does that look like? Yes. There you go. We saw that in Oldham. That is a Titan Waygate. So, it looks like there's one in Oldham, and there's one down here as well. The Twilight's Hammer are trying to get control of them. As to what the Waygates do, well, one has to assume they're teleporters of some description. So, yeah, it is not a spa or a whirlpool bath. I'm sorry, and it's also not a projection screen of the Maelstrom. It is a Titan Waygate. It's bound air elemental. How do you bind air in those things? I really can't imagine. Some kind of compressed air setup, perhaps. Who knows? And I'll tell you what, how do the Twilight get these bloody spires everywhere? I mean, they must be incredibly difficult to construct. And what did they do exactly? Bring their digging machines in here? It's like, well, I reckon, Gaffer, it's going to take 3 to 6 months to build these. And that's not taking into account the weather, the extra parts and labour, you know how it goes. Now, the Horde have gotten their ass kicked in this zone for whatever reason. That's a Horde gunship, or what's left of it. It's been shot down. Now, part of the questing here as the Horde is to find out what exactly happened to it in the first place. There is an Alliance gunship, but mysterious things are afoot in that particular area, and I will show it to you later on. There is a lot of variety in terms of terrain here, a lot of crazy elemental stuff going on. We've got this area which looks like it's very icy. It's got basilisks and drakes flying around in it. And you've also got the Twilight up to no good with these drakes as well. Who knows what they're planning? We shall raise the drakes and make them serve fast food at our new chain of restaurants. We call it Cho'Gall's Bar and Grill, and we will eventually cause the leaders of the Alliance and Horde to die of coronaries. Somehow I don't think that plan's going to work out so well. Oh look, it's a graveyard. You'll be visiting here quite a lot, undoubtedly. What is with this? Is that a new voice? Because I've never heard that before, and it's annoying. I see. Okay, enough. Good lord. He's just standing there and staring. He's like, what are you doing? Now, this looks like some kind of very slow firing squad. We are going to Hearthstone you to death, mark my words. They do like the purple down here. I like purple. Purple's a great colour. Purple glowy stuff is always awesome. No complaints about that at all. I wish I could tell you about the names of these areas, but there isn't even a map. There is no map. there's a concept map from BlizzCon, and that's really it. There's a couple of names for areas like the Temple of Earth and the Crimson Expanse, but none of them are implemented, so it's nigh on impossible to navigate. Really, the only way you're going to learn this is to actually do the quests here and read the quest text. You know what? That sounds like an awful lot of work. I think this is the Crimson Expanse. I recognize it from a screenshot. It's a bit red, so one can assume. Now, these guys are actually friendly. You do have quite a few allies around here. The Boglords, on the other hand, not so much. I have no idea how they got there, but it's weird, actually. There's some in the Tainted Scar, which is now the Tainted Forest. I suppose it makes sense. They might have made their way through the Dark Portal, but what they're doing down here is anyone's guess. Now, the Alliance Gunship. You should recognize this. It's the same model as the Skybreaker. As to whether or not it is actually the Skybreaker, probably not, because I'm fairly sure we shot that down on no less than 50 occasions in ICC, so it can't be working now. Now, here's the creepy thing about it. Everybody's dead. It's even got creepy music. I've heard this music before. I'm fairly sure it's ICC stuff, but whatever. They're all very much slain. Why, one has to wonder. Well, this is probably linked into the reason why the Horde Gunship was shot down in the first place. Now, the Alliance and Horde are very much at war in many areas, but I think in stuff like Deepholme, where everything's going to hell, and it's like, well, if we don't ally, the world's going to implode. They're a little bit more forthcoming. In this case, this area is covered in Twilight Saboteurs. One has to assume that they took over the ship and then used the cannons to shoot down the Horde Gunship. That would be my assumption. Get them out of the way. Mobs here are kind of tough, actually. Bear in mind, they buffed up a lot of the mobs so that they had way more HP now. It didn't affect Deepholme as much as it did Hyjal and Vashir, but you still got to cast quite a bit. There we go. Not really the ideal spec. I was just mucking about with Arcane. I'll probably go back to Fire. That is actually my dual spec, so I'm going to be using Fire in the Stone Core video. Or as I like to call it, the Cone Store. Because I'm that damn funny. Now, this is the Temple of the Earth. This is the big centerpiece of the zone. It is bloody enormous, and it's also the place where you will get to the Stone Core itself. Now, we're going to have a nice big panoramic view of this once we get down here. A couple of flickering mobs down there. They are called Geodes. The animation hasn't finished yet, and that's very clearly marked, so don't spaz out about that. Beta is beta after all. There you go. There are a lot of issues with the zone right now, actually, and one of those is the fact that you can't really get to it. You're supposed to go through a breadcrumb quest to get to the Maelstrom, and then that gets you down here. That'll crash your client with a fatal error now, so the only way anyone can really get in here is if they've got the Hearthstone here or if they're summoned. So I have my Hearthstone here, which is very handy, and I actually summoned some of my guild here so we can do the Stone Call later. But look at that. Is that not impressive as hell? Visuals are not something that WoW has a particular strong suit in, but come on, I mean, look at that thing. Goddamn awesome. And to finish this off, as we pan up, that is the Maelstrom. That's been my tour of Deepholme. I probably missed a ton of stuff. Little difficult without a map. I will definitely come back here and see if I can round up anything I've missed. Hopefully you enjoyed a look at that, because wow! Sorry, but wow! Look at that freaking zone. How different and unique is that? The visual style is awesome. Looking forward to mucking about in here some more. My name's been Totalbiscuit. This has been a look at Deepholme, and I will see you next time.